Hey guys, Victor here again, coming at you with another retro deck profile, and today we'll be focusing on the ever-popular Lightsworn strategy. Now, while it lacks the consistency that decks such as Tengu plants, TGs, and agents have, it is more than capable of holding its own and being able to take wins off these decks. The only issue comes in the form that the Lightsworn deck, as is tradition, relies a lot more on luck than the other decks. So, sometimes you'll open hands such as Charge of the Light Brigade, Recharge, and just be able to mill through your entire deck, while other times you'll open up triple JD, double Wulf, and not be able to do anything. So, with that out of the way, let's jump straight into the deck profile. So starting off with the Lightsworn portion of the deck, we're going to have triple Judgment Dragon. It's the boss monster of the deck. It's actually one of the few cards that was just released off the September 2011 ban list too, as like a small buff to the Lightsworn deck, which is greatly appreciated. And then we're going to play two Lyla Lightsworn sorceress. It's our main method of back row removal, and then it also helps you mill 3 cards. We're going to play two Wulf, pretty much staple. If it's milled, it special summons itself. If you're a good player, you'll always mill these. You won't draw them. It's just a fact of life. And then after that, we play a bunch of one-of names. So we're going to have one Aurkus. It makes your Lightsworns untargetable, whether they're in the grave or on the field. Then you have one Jain. If it attacks, it helps you beat over things like Thunder King Ryko because it gains 300 attack. You have one Garoth, just an extra name. If a Lightsworn monster activates its effect to mill, then Garoth activates and gives you potential to mill more and draw. We have Ehren, very good at bouncing back set Sangans or just Snowman Eaters or just anything else that might be a difficult problem for this deck to overcome. You play one Celestia, Lightsworn Angel. You don't really want a brick, which is why you only play one. It's really good if you're able to summon it, but if you can't, it's no big deal. Then we play one Lumina, Lightsworn Summoner, easily the best Lightsworn monster in the deck. It helps discard those wolves that you drew and be able to special summon any other Lightsworn that might help you. So you can bring back your Lylas, you can bring back your Jains, your Arkuses, etc. And then lastly, while this may be controversial, I only play one Ryko, and that's because honestly, Ryko isn't that great against all 3 of the top decks. Against Tengu Plant, it's probably at its best, but it doesn't really care because that deck just floats so much. And then if you play against agents, they'll just summon a Hyperion and pop it while it's face down, making it worthless. And then lastly, every single card in TG floats, whether it's the Tengus or the TGs themselves, and that's provided you don't get hit by skill drain too. So this card is just kind of like meh in this era, which is why I only play one. But if you want, you could definitely play 2 or 3. You just have to work around with the ratios. And now we can move on to the non-Light Swarm portion of the deck. The second half of monsters are just as important as the Lightsworn monsters and help ensure that you're able to compete against the top tier decks at this time. So with that, we're going to start off with our triple tour guide and our one Sangan. Probably the most important engine in this deck, as it's able to help you get your chaos monsters live a lot more easily. It goes into your rank 3 plays a lot easily, such as Levier, to bring back any potential banished pieces. And even if you don't want to Xyz, it's fine, because the Sangan being able to float into something like Lumina is more than valuable enough to ensure and justify running this engine. So in addition to that, we also play 2 Necro Gardnas, pretty much a staple on most Lightsworn decks at this time. It's at 2, so we play 2, and it helps ensure that your monsters will be able to survive the battle. Then you also play your tuners, Plaguespreader and Global, probably the 2 more important ones, as compared to most other tuners, they're able to bring themselves back from the graveyard and help synchro a lot more easily, especially Plaguespreader Zombie. Or hell, even Global was really good because of the fact that they allow you easy access into things like Trish, Stardust, pretty much anything that you would ever need. And then we also play one Blackluster Soldier, Envoy at the beginning. It's basically your second boss monster. Typically you want to blow up the board with JD, and then if you can drop the BLS down, you pretty much already have won the game at that point. Then we play one Gorz, the Emissary of Darkness. This deck plays pretty much no traps, so this card is always going to be live, and it's just a really important monster to have. Then you play 2 Maxx's because it's Maxx, and you want to be able to draw cards whenever your opponent decides to special summon. In addition to that, we play 1 Effect Veiler, also a pretty important card, as you're able to get it back from your graveyard. It's a light monster, so you can fuel your BLS. It being a level 1 tuner actually helps a lot in making it very easy to go into your synchros, and it's just a really good utility card. And then finally we play one Honest because it's a light deck, and Honest pretty much goes in every single light deck at this time. So, with the monsters out of the way, we can now move on to the spell and trap portion of the deck. Compared to the monster lineup, the spell and trap card portion of the deck is actually really small, but just because it's smaller compared to the monsters does not make it any less important. So with that, we're going to start off with 3 Solar Recharge and 1 Charge of the Light Brigade. Easily the most important cards of the deck. They pretty much do everything. They help you draw, they help you search, they help you mill, they help you unclog your hand. They're just incredible cards that you always want to see if you can. And then we're going to play a lot of one-of spells cards as their power spells. So we're going to play 1 Heavy Storm, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Monster Reborn, and 1 Dark Hole. Pretty much staple on every single deck up to this point. And then in addition to that, we're going to play 1 Pot of Avarice, as the odds of you milling cards that you don't want in the grave are actually pretty high. So this helps you recycle your powerful monsters such as Blackluster Soldier or your Judgment Dragons or just whatever else you may want in your deck. And then the effect to be able to draw 2 cards after that is actually extremely helpful too, especially if you're able to draw into one of the boss monsters that you shuffle back. And then after that, we're only going to play 1 Monster Reincarnation. It just discards 1 card from your hand to add 1 monster from your grave back to your hand. It's pretty useful in situations where you can discard like a Necro Gardna, add back a JD, and just pop off. It's just a really good card, but I wouldn't play it at more than 1 because then it tends to brick. Instead, I opted to play 2 Beckoning Light. It's a fantastic card. It helps you discard your entire hand and then basically make an entire new one from scratch. It's incredibly powerful late into the game after you've milled over half your deck, as the chances are you're going to have a couple Judgment Dragons and you're going to have a BLS and stuff like that, and an Honest and just a bunch of incredible cards. So you discard your bad hand and you add back the good cards, and then from there you should be able to win the game pretty easily. And with that, we've finished the spell and trap card portion, bringing us to a total of 40 cards in the main deck. And so now we can finally move on to the extra deck. So the extra deck is pretty generic at this time, with everyone pretty much running the same staples. So with that in mind, we're going to play 1 Armory Arm because it's a good card. We're going to play 1 Hyper Librarian as it's possibly the best level 5 at this time. We're going to play 1 Ally of Justice Cataster to help with generic removal. Then we're going to play 1 Brio. It's actually pretty important in this deck, as if you're able to summon the Brio, you can discard more Lightsworn names or just whatever cards that you don't want in your hand to the graveyard to help feed your Lightsworn and Chaos Engine. Then we play 1 Orient Dragon to help get rid of like big monsters such as Stardust Dragon, which is pretty difficult for this deck to out sometimes. You play the 1 Black Rose, the 1 Ancient Fairy. Then you play Scrap Dragon, Thought Ruler, and then Stardust Dragon. Like I said, it's pretty much just staples. And you also play the 1 Trishula, which can be summoned pretty easily with Bulb or Plague. And if you're able to summon it, the tide of the game typically turns into your favor. Then we play our rank 4s in Steel Swarm Roach and Utopia. They're pretty rare, and you almost never make them, but they're just there to be there, because sometimes the situation does come up. Then you play 1 Leviathan Dragon, and then lastly you play 1 Levier, probably one of the more important rank 3s, as it's able to special summon back any level 4 or lower, so you can bring back your Luminas, your Honest, etc., etc. It's just a really good card to have. And with that, that's the Lightsworn deck. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you have any suggestions for any decks that you might want to see, feel free to leave a comment down below and let me know. Until then, see you guys next time.